So you heard the stereotypes, you've seen the double standards, but here's what you don't hear enough, that the Asian men are actually rising and we are the new standard. But here's the thing, where does this all start from? We are usually targeted though. You would notice that since probably Bruce Lee, we haven't had a male Asian hero that we could look up to. Yes, you could say that maybe Shang-Chi, but if you realize that nobody really talks about Shang-Chi anymore, and did you know that in the only Marvel superhero, and fact check me on this, I think Shang-Chi was the very few male Marvel superheroes where he didn't have a female romantic lead. It actually looked like the girl might have been like a best friend. I don't know. There could be possibilities that maybe he like doesn't prefer women in that. Basically, there was no romantic lead in Shang-Chi, but all Marvel superheroes like Thor, Captain America, every superhero has a romantic lead. He didn't. And also one thing we noticed about Shang-Chi is he didn't go viral for his amazing body like all the other superheroes did when it comes to Thor and all this stuff. No one talks about his superhero kind of physique and the superhero kind of image he had. So what does that mean? It means that Asian men are still looked down upon as less masculine. We're the safe bet. And if you actually go to Western societies, we are not considered probably the most ideal or attractive type when it comes to most women in the West. Also, if you go to Asia, most likely Southeast Asia, it seems like women still feel more attracted in their own countries. Men are not considered attractive and they prefer foreigners, mostly the Caucasian types, than their own country or the Asians in their own country. So there's double standards, right? Basically, if you look at how Asian women talk about Asian men in Western societies, they mostly talk about Asian men were too feminine. They might focus on their own daddy issues and they say Asian men are not emotional. If you look at how Asian women are fetishized a little bit in the West, but Asian men are the opposite, right? I wouldn't say fetishization of Asian women is a positive thing, but most men in the West, that's why they're moving all to Southeast Asia, right? You see a lot of these white guys posting on YouTube videos become the pimp of Southeast Asia. And I'm just like, oh my God, are you serious? But you don't see Asian men going to another foreign country, especially a Caucasian country or European or Western, and say, look at me getting all the white girls. We don't see that. And if you actually look at even certain industries, you don't really, the whole big thing about AMWF, it's not something that people talk about, right? Especially in the West. And most Caucasian guys or foreigners are going to Asian countries, and you could tell that they just don't have a respect for the men there. And I heard from a lot of Asian women in these countries how foreigners sometimes disrespect the men and talk bad about the men and say they were more masculine. And I went through this when one of my exes came to LA and she was just walking around doing touristy stuff. A guy from Australia actually went up to her and said hi and asked her if she had a boyfriend. And she said, yes, I did. And he said, oh, is he Asian? And she said, yeah, he's Korean. He's like, well, why don't you date a real man? So there's still this double standard of like racism going on, but because Asian men, we tend to stay more quiet. We don't talk about the racism that happens. Obviously, we see a lot of black males supporting each other and say black males should move up in terms of status, but Asian males were kind of more taught to stay quiet and show them by, making a lot of money and staying quiet. And I think in our culture, we don't want to disturb the peace. We learn not to be too loud, too obnoxious, because that's kind of rude. We're taught not to chew too loudly. We're taught to respect the community. But I feel like because we're in the West, that needs to change a little bit, where we need to be more outspoken about how Asian men are treated, especially in the West. Okay. And obviously, we're talked about how boba liberals, right, are described as Asians seeking validation from white people, right? And boba liberals are also saying, hey, we need to assimilate to the West. We need to be more like the West. And you see also a lot of Asian women do this, right? They want to date more West. And you see a lot of girls like kind of dating outside their own race. I think we're actually the only race where the women date mostly over 50% outside of us, especially when it comes to other countries besides Asian countries. If you go to Thailand, Southeast Asian countries, most of these girls are dating foreigners. You don't see a lot of the girls, especially if you go to islands where a lot of foreigners go, like I'm in Bali right now, a lot of these girls are dating white guys mostly. So there's people actually supporting, especially the opposite sex in our own community, where the Asian women are saying date outside of our own race or go against Asian guys. There's actually a big community like that. And we are also considered just safe options, right? We're not the ones who change, you know, and I think it comes from Asian fathers, right? Because Asian fathers were more traditional. We kind of have Asian values like from Confucius and Buddhism, where we're not loud. We might not have the loud masculinity like some of these other foreigners do, but I would say we know our own stuff where we are masculine in our way. Because one thing about my dad was he's able to always put food on the table. He's always able to do the work so his kids were taken care of. And he worked so hard to make sure we got a good education. But I think a lot of Asian women or Asian even men don't like that part of the Asian culture. Why do we have to work so hard? Why couldn't we be good in sports? That's why you don't see a lot of Asian guys in sports, except for a couple soccer players here and there. You don't see Asian football players, a lot of Asian basketball players, right? And I know there's the physical concept too. A lot of Asian guys are not physically gifted or talented as some of these foreigners. If you actually go to some countries, some Asian men are tall. Like in Korea, they're a lot tall. So like I said, it's changing a little bit. But also, I think in terms of history context, the media has destroyed Asian men. Now it's changing a little bit. Like we see the Hongdae guy showing that, but you still see the accent and you see that they're doing it in Korea. No one's talking about how Asian men are stereotyped in America. It's funny when you're not in Korea and you see that, but what about showing the masculinity and, the kind of the charm we have in America? But we don't talk about it. There's no media kind of happening. I think the biggest thing is there's lack of representation since what Crazy Rich Asians and even Crazy Rich Asians just portrayed. They had a guy who was half Asian and half white, right? And he's from a rich family. So I feel like every time they see something positive in an Asian guy, he's not really any other aspect except that he's rich, he's smart, and comes from a good school, Ivy League. And it's just like the representations are not good. So the question is, how do we fight this, right? And you could say, well, the K-pop trend and the K-drama trend is causing a lot of positivity and a lot of positive trends. But if you really look at it, even the K-drama culture in Korea, it puts an expectation in Korean men or even just people all around the world that we have to be this perfect romantic guy. It's like there's so much pressure on Asian guys to be this perfect guy. So we not only have to be masculine, but we also have to be romantic. We also have to be emotionally intelligent. We got to be smart. It's like the standard of Asian men, if we want to even be considered equal to another foreigner, it's like higher, right? You don't see girls say, oh, I wish this white guy was smart. I wish this white guy was emotionally intelligent and romantic, or even African-American guys or black guys. You don't hear them, or the machismo Latino guys, like they don't have to be smart, but there's certain expectations of us. Like we not, if we're jacked, we're out of the norm, but then we also have dependent on, are we smart or stable, financially stable and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like there's a lot of pressure with Asian men, but here's the thing, right? This is where you can't play the victim. It's about taking the ownership ourselves as Asian men. So yes, I am proud that I'm smart. I'm proud that I went to good school. I'm proud that my parents made me learn math and do multiplication table all the time. And I accepted that reality, but I also realized now that we have, if you want to stand out from the rest, you need to actually have a higher standard for yourself. And I want you actually, guys, if you're an Asian guy or any guy looking at this video, take that challenge, right? Don't be like, oh man, I'm Asian. I have to not only be smart, I have to have stable income because that's expected out of us, but I also have to have a nice body, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, take that challenge and become better. So the first thing is, right, you need to first meet the expectations of an Asian guy. Like, if you're kind of not smart, I think you should be smart as an Asian guy. I think that's part of our blood. I think naturally you are smarter. I just feel like because at a young age, our parents focus so much on education, I do think there's some kind of IQ where we are smart. That's why you could hear that is banning Harvard people, and there's a lot more affirmative action against Asians. So accept that reality. If you're not considered smart, work on that. Because I think in our kind of natural talent, I think most Asian people, we are smart. We are hard workers because of that immigrant mentality. So take on that immigrant mentality, be smart. But the next thing is, I think, physical presence. So what I'm talking about is muscles, right? Or some kind of physical body. Because one thing about Bali, when I came here, everyone's in good shape here. Like, I don't care if you're on certain drugs or whatever, but it seems like everyone's in shape. One thing that I gain respect is that those guys actually look at me and they come up to me and say, hey man, respect your physique and all that stuff. So I think one of the best ways is not just focus on women to like you, a non-Asian woman to like you, but have the other foreigners, the white guys and the black guys, respect you too. So black guys and white guys are not gonna just look at your brain as smart and they think respect that. But most guys respect his physical presence. If you don't have a good body, then focus on learning how to fight, be a boxer, Muay Thai, whatever. Because one thing I realized about foreigners in Thailand, they do respect Muay Thai fighters. Like, even if they're small stature, if you find out he's a badass fighter and you see like a guy named Rod Tang, he's just dominating these guys, right? Dominating these people. Like, you see Joe Rogan respect all these Muay Thai fighters. All the MMA fighters respect Muay Thai fighters, even if they've had small stature and they're not that big. They just respect the conditioning, the work ethic, everything like that. Now that's getting more spoken of. So have some kind of physical ability where you could fight back, right? And the next thing is master a skill or an ambition. So if it's some kind of like, even if you're an engineering or a computer science major, be the best engineer you could be. So even if you're just an engineer or a coder, be the best. Like be the guy who creates apps. Like if you're a computer engineer or a software developer in an app that makes dollars, you're the best. Like be that guy. Like be the best. Don't let Mark Zuckerberg or these white guys, Sam Altman, take over. Be the Asian, like that TikTok guy who was that CEO of TikTok, and he went up to the Congress and he said, "Hey, I'm Singaporean," and he started talking back with confidence. Like he's a smart guy, eloquent. And one thing also too is try not to have an accent. I do think if you have an accent that plays a detriment because of how Western media portrayed Chinese accents, I think learn the language because you're living in that country anyways. I know white people won't learn our language. That's how I said, I don't see any Asian guys trying to learn Thai here, but I do think that shows their kind of like first aptitude that you can learn the language and you learn how to like fix the accent because actors do it all the time. So it's a skill that you can learn. So become proficient at a skill, but also learn how to speak the language without an accent because that will help. It's just part of it because you live in that country. And emotional intelligence. One thing about, I do think a lot of white guys talk about stoicism and all this blah, blah, but Confucianism was the first stoicism. Buddhism was the first stoicism. It's about David Goggins, like suffering, life is suffering. But Buddhism was first that life is suffering and learn how to accept it. But I think there's that David Goggins hyper masculinity thing, which is good, agitate hyper masculinity. But there's also the soft masculinity. I think Asian guys should go more into this. Like, you don't have to be loud to be masculine. You could have this presence. You know how there's like, when you go into a room, right? I realize the real actual masculine men are the ones who are quiet. The ones who actually know how to fight, the ones who know who handle all situations. They're not loud and obnoxious, right? And be that guy, like be that Shaolin monk kind of vibe where you don't need to talk, but everyone knows you're a killer. Everyone knows you're a badass, right? That's the vibe you kind of want to get when it comes to, I guess you could say, emotional intelligence and stoicism. Like go with Buddhism. Buddhism is the original stoicism, what I think, right? And then be the role model. So I always say when I date women who never dated Asian guys, or whenever I put myself out there in front of social settings where I'm the only Asian guy, I make sure I take an extra step up. Maybe I dress a little bit better, or I try to be more jacked than everyone, or I try to put more of a presence because I not only represent myself, I represent my whole heritage and all of my Asian brothers behind me. So basically, when it comes to, I try to be a role model for Asian men. I know most guys don't think like, I'm not trying to be a role model, but actually black guys do that. Black athletes do that, right? They want to give hope to a younger generation that they could be what they're be. And that's what I think as an Asian man, if you really want to set yourself a new standard and become the best man you can be, I think for Asian men, accept your culture, but like, it's kind of like your last name, right? I think we lost that whole thing of like, if your last name's Hong, Kim, Chen, whatever it is, that last name always had a legacy. And back in the kingdom days, in the Chinese Forbidden City days, last names had a legacy. You were considered royalty or whatever based on where last name came from. So use that, but now use it for the Asian culture. Like be proud that you're Asian, but represent it well. Don't like, obviously when you're by yourself, I get it. You could just kind of chill out. But when you're out there, always act in the presence that like you represent most Asian men, because people will judge you because of your skin. They will judge you. Oh, if you're like that, or other Asian men like that. Because a lot of women told me like, I didn't expect Asian guys to be like that. But after meeting you, I started looking at Asian guys different. So that makes a huge difference. You want to be a symbol of Asian men. Like it's a kind of Batman. You want to be a symbol of hope. You want to be a symbol for attractive, masculine Asian men, right? So another thing is when you see an Asian man killing it, he's doing well, he's dating all the girls he wants, but also his job, whatever, support him. We don't like to brag about each other. We kind of compete with each other. We're like, oh, that Asian guy's doing better, whatever. But I think supporting each other, just like black men say they want other guys to succeed in their own community, support each other. Don't bring each other down. Because no offense, the Asian women are kind of bring us down sometimes. Not all, but usually the boba liberals, I said, will bring us down, or the anti-loose, right? So whenever you start like seeing an Asian guy, like post on Instagram, like this guy's so cool, or go up to him, just give him a dab and make him look good in front of his girl, or do something like that, right? And also learn how to maybe brand yourself more. I know a lot of Asian guys, we like to stay humble and not brag about our lives, but everyone on social media, you see these Bali guys, they're all jacked. They're doing all these things where they portray themselves and they're bragging technically about their body, their money, all that stuff. You see the Dubai guys, Andrew Tate. Asian guys don't do that. We have billionaires and probably an Asian Andrew Tate who doesn't talk about this. But I do think if you're open to it, learn how to brand yourself, build a brand. It's like kind of saying like, why? Okay, so there's some brands that are Asian brands are actually better quality than some of these American brands, right? But why American brands sometimes do well is because of the marketing, right? Coca-Cola, Apple, they took over the branding. So if you want to put that on a self-individual basis, make your brand very powerful by marketing yourself better. Use the Instagram technology, use like AI, use something to create a brand about yourself. So at least the world gets to see, not everyone, if you don't want to be too social media, but people get to see how awesome you are. I think that's a very powerful way to create a brand, because now that brand, it's not, yes, we should also consider our last name and our first name. Like, my name is Daniel Kim. Cool. Captain Daniel Kim, right? Instagram. But I also say Asian. I always say I'm Asian, I'm Korean, because I want to represent Asian man. If you look at my content, I always say Asian man, Korean man, all this, because I feel like it's my duty to show how awesome the color of my skin or my heritage or my culture is. And we can't keep waiting for the next Bruce Lee. It's probably not going to come anytime soon, because no one's masculine. And I feel like Asian men, we kind of want to follow the crowd. So I do think one man will stand up eventually. I'm playing a small part in that, but we need to start showing the next generation of Asian boys, hey, like, be a little bit more loud, be a little bit more, physical, be a little bit more like, masculine, be a little bit more assertive, right? We need to start doing that, right? But also, you also need to, you see a lot of these like Instagram where Asians with attitudes, or you see this black guy in Korea who's disrespecting Asian culture. I wouldn't say, like, I think, I forgot it's a Somali. I forgot his name was, but he basically got attacked by a Korean guy. I don't think physical violence is necessary unless you do, but I would say show it with respect. So basically, it's kind of like, you ever see that Kobe Bryant video where someone tries to throw a ball at his face, Matt Barnes, and he tries to throw a ball at his face and he doesn't flinch? I would say that is more of a power masculine instead of a guy who fights back all the time and just yells back. He just stays stoic, and he pretty much, like, imagine the scene where, like, let's say a guy's being racist to you and you just stare him down and be like, you really don't want to do this. What's more powerful? A guy who is kind of like John Wick vibes. I think that's more powerful. Do you want to be a guy who's like just loud and just yelling back, or you kind of stare him down? And because of your charisma, and also because, let's say martial arts, the guy feels your presence. He's like, what are you going to do? And he just acts like a fool while you're just calm. You want to be the stoic, respectful, masculine guy, not the guy who's just loud back, right? That's why guys with a lot of muscles, yeah, they seem like all big, obnoxious, but the real killers are the ones who are quiet and be like, you really don't want to do this, right? That kind of vibe, right? And try to stand up for other Asian brothers if you feel like you can. Like, don't let, especially, you shouldn't let any bullying slide, but don't let other Asian guys getting bullied. Like, if you're in the comments, like, try to help each other out, guys. Like, that's one thing about the Asian community. We don't really support each other. We don't brag about each other, but try to really help out over that. And like, we need unity. We need to be a team now. We need to be like one war community team that fights against this racism, not just like all of us doing our separate things. I'm going to be rich by myself. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, whatever. No, like, start marketing yourself as an Asian man, not just, Daniel, David, whatever. Just say Asian man too, to help each other out the group. So, one thing I would say is, support each other in the comments, right? If you ever see an Asian guy killing it on social media, encourage him on the comments, but make it public, right? Encourage him publicly. If you see an Asian guy in the subway with a beautiful girl, go up to him and be like, yo, mad respect, man. Or when he kills it, right? Support each other, right? So if you guys also, if you want to do a collaboration, you could do a collaboration with me. If you want to support each other, let's do a collab where I show how, hey, I met another awesome Asian guy, and we can just help each other out and do collab something, right? But here's the thing. If you're ready to now step up and build a community together, drop a comment, and I am going to send you a free PDF where I will teach you how to market yourself, Asian guy, and how to start branding yourself. Because I know all of you guys have attractive qualities. You just don't know how to show it. So drop a comment or DM me on @CaptainDanielKim. Just say Asian, and then I will send you a PDF file free that shows you exactly step by step how you could just brand yourself in a smart way, especially with already the qualities that you already have. So here's the thing. You don't have to be perfect, right? You just have to show up every day a little stronger than before. Let's make it impossible for anyone to ignore our presence, especially as Asian men, our talent, and okay? I am not a stereotype. I am a standard. Every time I level up, I raise the bar for everyone who looks at me. Respect is earned, not it, but I'm going to demand it from now on for myself. It's been a pleasure. Captain Daniel out.